Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking a global point of view to unpack an absolutely fascinating and, frankly, totally unprecedented geopolitical coincidence that's playing out right now across South Asia. We're looking at two neighboring nations, entirely different circumstances, but one incredibly specific acronym uniting them in unrest. To really get a grip on the massive wave of unrest sweeping through India and Pakistan this July 2026, we've got to start with a truly bizarre question. What on earth do cockroaches have in common with chief justices? I know, right? It sounds like the setup to a weird joke, but the punchline is actually shaping the future of democracy for nearly 2 billion people. The answer boils down to one simple acronym: CJP. It's currently at the dead center of massive yet completely distinct citizen uprisings in these two neighboring countries. In India, CJP stands for the Cockroach Janta Party, but in Pakistan, it stands for the Chief Justice of Pakistan. So you have both nations experiencing huge, historic protests revolving around those exact same three letters. To get a global point of view on all of this, here's our agenda. First, the tale of two CJPs. Second, India's Cockroach Junta Party. Third, the crackdown on students. Fourth, Pakistan's Chief Justice protests. Fifth, the judicialization of politics. And finally, a global point of view. Okay, let's jump right into Section 1, the tale of two CJPs. Over in India, the Chief Justice recently referred to unemployed youth as cockroaches and parasites during a Supreme Court hearing. Yeah, you heard that right. Now, a 30-year-old Gen Z graduate named Abhijit Dipke took that insult and flipped it on its head. He spun it into this viral, highly satirical political movement, essentially asking the internet, well, what if all the cockroaches just came together? Which brings us to Section 2, India's Cockroach Janta Party. To really understand how this movement spread like wildfire, you've got to look at the desperate reality driving it. Imagine this: over 2 million students competing for just 130,000 spots in the NEET medical exams. To put that into perspective, that's nearly 2 million rejected dreams. And to make matters worse, this ultra-pressurized system is currently plagued by widespread paper leaks. Exams are literally being sold to the highest bidder. You've got families going into extreme debt just for a chance, only to find out the whole system is completely compromised. Driven by this massive education crisis, the Cockroach Janta Party, or CJP, mobilized millions of frustrated youth almost overnight. Founded just this past May, their main demand is the resignation of Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan. And guys, the scale of this is absolutely staggering. Their Instagram page quickly blew past the ruling BJP's page, racking up an unbelievable 22 million followers. They even pulled in heavy hitters like the renowned climate activist Sonam Wangchuk to support their cause. Moving on to Section 3, the crackdown on students. Things escalated super fast at the historic Jantar Mantar Observatory in Delhi. On June 28th, activist Sonam Wangchuk began a hunger strike. Fast forward 20 days to July 18th, and police forcibly removed him to a hospital, which his wife completely condemned as illegal detention. That sparked an immediate reaction. Just 2 days later, on July 20th, over 20,000 CJP protesters marched straight toward Parliament. Now, Delhi police claimed they were attacked by unruly crowds throwing stones, but independent watchdogs found a very different story. Human Rights Watch documented a severe crackdown. Eyewitnesses, like a 34-year-old Delhi lawyer, reported that the students were subjected to extreme force while literally just sitting there, peacefully begging the police not to beat them and just taking the hits. The crucial takeaway here is the state's incredibly aggressive response. We're talking batons, tear gas, and facial recognition surveillance. They even instituted internet shutdowns, which Human Rights Watch notes is a classic tactic used to conceal abuses. There were multiple reports of police in civilian clothes without name tags beating protesters, and in one highly publicized incident, senior police officer Sandeep Lamba was actually removed from duty after a viral video showed him slapping a woman protester who was just trying to run away. It instantly turned a youth protest into a major human rights flashpoint. Now let's cross the border for Section 4, Pakistan's Chief Justice protests. Zooming out and shifting over to Pakistan's capital, Islamabad, an entirely different scene is unfolding, but with that exact same CJP acronym. A right-wing group calling themselves the Movement to Protect Prophethood physically breached the city's high-security red zone. They bypassed barbed wire and blockades to directly challenge the nation's highest court. These protesters are explicitly targeting the CJP, in this case, the Chief Justice of Pakistan, Qazi Faz Issa. They are demanding his immediate resignation over what's known as the Mubarak Sani judgment. This was a controversial court ruling that affirmed the constitutional rights of marginalized Ahmadis to exist and coexist in the country, even if the state doesn't recognize them as Muslims. This religious group fundamentally rejects that ruling, and they've taken to the streets to demand that Chief Justice step down.
This leads us directly to Section 5, the judicialization of politics.
To really grasp why Pakistan's Chief Justice is the target of such intense, direct political anger, we have to rewind a bit to 2005. Starting with the era of Chief Justice Iftikhar Muhammad Chaudhry, the Pakistani Supreme Court moved from the sidelines right into the absolute center of the country's political power struggles. Remember the massive lawyers' movement in 2007? That essentially reinstated the Chief Justice against military rule. By 2022, the court was directly intervening in the dissolution of parliament. So the court is no longer just a neutral legal body. It's a major central political player. A massive part of this shift comes down to a specific legal concept called suo motu. Basically, this is a power that allows a court to take up a case entirely on its own initiative without anyone even filing a formal petition. The Pakistani Supreme Court has used this power extensively to intervene in government affairs, doing things like checking elected officials, investigating corruption, and even regulating pricing. But here's the catch. By doing all of this, they've deeply intertwined the judiciary with politics. That effectively makes the Chief Justice a prime target for public outrage anytime a ruling is unpopular. All right, let's tie this all together in Section 6, a global point of view. So, what do these two parallel crises, both named CJP, actually tell us about the broader South Asian region? Looking at it from a global point of view, they clearly show that traditional avenues of democracy are just failing to absorb public frustration. In India, citizens felt so completely ignored by the system that they formed a massive satirical party based on a Chief Justice's insult. Meanwhile, in Pakistan, citizens bypassed legal appeals entirely, breaching security zones to physically intimidate a Chief Justice over a constitutional ruling. In both scenarios, you have the people bypassing the ballot box and the courtroom to take the fight directly to the state.
Ultimately, these twin CJP protests leave us with a vital, deeply pressing question. What happens to a democracy when its citizens completely lose faith in both their elected leaders and their highest courts? Because whether you're a student in Delhi fighting for a fair exam or a religious protester in Islamabad, the underlying symptom is exactly the same, a profound systemic crisis of institutional trust. And honestly, that is a dangerous reality for any nation when the people feel the system has entirely forgotten to count them. Thanks for joining me for this explainer. I'll catch you next time.